Okay, this morning I'm with Julie Jones, and she's the director of Alta Villas. And Alta Villas are in Javea. And all the information you're going to need about Alta Villas will be in the description box underneath the video. Phone numbers, emails, etc., etc. So you'll be able to get hold of Julie anytime you want, and she'll be able to deal with whatever you need. And we will be going through the first part today of buying a property in Spain. So I'd like to introduce you now to Julie. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Barry. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for inviting me to participate in this video. Very excited to be able to try and help people to buy a property in Spain. Just to give you a brief background, I've been selling properties in the beautiful town of Javea in Alicante area for 15 years. So we tend to see the same trends all the time when people are coming to buy property. A lot of them are buying from other countries. They are not used to the buying process. They're not familiar with the costs. And sometimes they don't even know if they are wanting to buy in Spain, let alone in a little sleepy fishing village like Javea.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think it's leafy.
No.
But it's a busy place, for sure.
Javea is a beautiful place.
Yeah, and also I think it's like in the top 5 most expensive places in Spain to live.
It certainly
Third
is.
or fourth, something like that, if I remember.
It certainly is. In fact, we have one street here in Javea, which I think is the most expensive street in the Valencian community.
Right.
Because of the fantastic sea views. So
and what nationalities? Is it all nationalities or one Pacific?
At the moment, the trend is that we're selling to a lot of Dutch clients.
Right.
Still some British. Brexit did affect the British market because people are not so easy to move out here.
No.
But Dutch, Belgian, Spanish still.
Russians?
Russians sometimes, not so much, but statistically it is the British and the Dutch that still buy in the Javea area,
right.
certainly.
Right.
Russians would be in other areas,
yeah.
so there are regional variations.
And what about French? Because this year through the summer, I mean, obviously I've lived here for 15 years, and I've noticed the difference this year in particular about the French. There's a lot of French cars here.
Yes, there are a lot of French cars, tourists, okay?
Yeah.
They come here for holiday, and yes, they do buy.
Yeah.
But still, proportionately, in this area, a lot less than the British and the Dutch. Okay.
All right.
So things are always changing, but you certainly will see a lot of French tourists.
Yeah, certainly. As I say, from when I first moved here till now, it's grown a hell of a lot. Anyway, let me get on and start talking about the purchase.
Okay. So we find that when people are first thinking about buying a property, the first thing they tend to do is to go onto Google and buy a property in Spain. And you get so much information from there, but it can be quite confusing. So if you do that Google search, you'll end up with lists upon lists of portals. And on those portals, you'll get thousands and thousands of properties. So, and you think some of them, they look fantastic, they're really cheap. That would be a great way to start, but sometimes cheap isn't always the best.
No.
So what we try and do is we try and really push the fact that we are licensed and qualified real estate agents in Javea. So if people come to us and they make contact with us, the first thing we do is try and qualify them, the same as a British estate agent would do or a Dutch estate agent would do. So we're asking them, okay, so you want to buy a property in Spain or in the Javea area? Are you looking for a villa or apartment? How many bedrooms? Do you need a pool? What's the reason for your purchase? Are you going to be emigrating? Are you going to be buying it as a holiday home? Or are you going to be having it as an investment, like a holiday rental property? Because the answer to those questions might affect the sort of properties we would suggest to the client.
Especially like with pools and things, because pools equate to money, because they equate to maintenance. So if you don't want a pool, you're not going to use it, then why have a pool, you know?
Exactly. Winter sun, very important here. If you're going to live here, you need winter sun.
Yeah. So south-facing, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. So we like it if the client makes contact with us quite early on in their search. We like to qualify what they're looking for. Also, their buying position. Do they have cash? Do they need a mortgage? Do they have a mix of the two? What nationality are they in terms of, and also what currency are they going to buy in? Because currency variations can really impact on the client's ability to buy.
Yeah.
So we ask all those sorts of questions. And the idea of that, not that we're nosy, but is so that we can hopefully suggest the most suitable things for the client.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really even before they come out.
That's right.
Yeah. So so basically, once we've qualified them and found out maybe if they do need a mortgage, we can then put them in touch with mortgage advisors, which we'll talk about later.
Are many people actually borrowing to buy these properties, or a lot of them have got cash?
A lot have cash.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a bit more of a trend now, people getting mortgages as well. So, and, you know, but a lot are cash,
Yeah,
you know, for
yeah.
various sources, you know, investments and pension schemes, earnings. So. So then we sort of get to the point where the client is going to come and view, okay? And obviously we want to meet them in our office, just make sure that we've got, really have understood their requirements. We have a selection of properties to show them. One very important thing, a difference about buying a property in Spain, particularly in this area, is that most agents will collaborate with other agents, okay? So Alta Villas is is quite a popular, I hope, a collaborating agency. So we can also show the client properties from those other agents. Okay, so really providing a proper property finding service.
Yeah, often, you know, I remember when we listed a property a few years ago, it was on 4 or 5 different agents.
Yes.
And you think, well, how did that get onto there? I've only gone to agent A, and all of a sudden it's B, C, D, E. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's quite confusing when people do go and Google and they go onto portals, because quite often you'll see the same property on by numerous agents, sometimes different prices. Some of which have been sold. So I do understand that buyers can get quite frustrated in doing that.
Yeah.
I personally think it's far better to have a relationship with a good listing agent and a good collaborating agent.
And also for that agent to keep in touch with the seller or the buyer, whatever the case may be, so they are fully up to date with what's going on. Then there's no confusing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we do that. We always, communication is vital.
Yeah, very key. Yeah.
Right. So, so when the client comes and we'll sit down with you and then go through everything. And when I say focusing on what the purpose of the purchase is. So if the purpose is that they are going to come and live here, you'd probably be thinking about accessibility to schools, as I say, winter sun, has the property fully heated because it can be cold in Spain. So all of these things, and the client may well have selected some villas that might not have these things, and we can always say, look, we'll go and show them to you, but we think maybe this isn't right because it's in the shade all winter. Okay. If they're looking for an investment, very important that the property will get a tourist license or has already got a tourist license. There's no point in buying something that you can't let out. No. Also, you know, if someone's buying as an investment, you know, they need to know that the price they're buying for is quite keen, you know, quite a good price. Yeah. But also that it is the sort of property that you can sell on if that's what you want to do. Yeah. Okay. So once we've got our selection, we take the client out to do viewings, and when we do viewings, Javea is a small town, but it's very diverse. It's you've got on one side you've got the beautiful cove of Granadella, which is always winning awards for its beauty. Yeah. And then you've got the Arenal, which is the sandy beach area. Very busy. Very good for families. Yeah, very much so. Further on, you've got the port, which people would say is a bit more cosmopolitan. Yeah,
I think that's right. I think the port, over the years since I've been here, I think the port has grown quite nicely. Yeah. You know, I think it's a nice area to go now. I mean, the beach is stones, but you know, you can't have everything. If you want sand, you come down this end.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the restaurants and the area itself is quite nice.
Yeah, exactly. You also in Javea, you have the Pueblo as well, which is very, very Spanish and beautiful.
Yeah.
But then also you've got the going out onto the Montgo, which is the beautiful mountain that separates Javea from Denia.
Yeah.
It's a national park. And further inland. So when we're doing when we're taking people to see properties, we're kind of giving them a guided tour as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm talking about Javea, but I think good estate agents in any area of Spain would do this as well.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure that you're going to buy something that you're happy with.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So obviously the client then will see different properties. We're always saying, you know, make a list, see things, you know, write down things you like or don't like, because it can be very confusing when you see lots of houses.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they will narrow their search down and want to go and do second viewings, maybe the next day or the day after. They might be out with other agents and they'll see other properties, and then hopefully they'll come back for second viewings.
Okay.
So all the way through then, we're also trying to offer the client other things that they will find useful. Things like, well, when you do find a property you're going to buy, always have a lawyer, okay? If you are paying in sterling, think about foreign currency exchange. Things like this is information that we can impart to the client. One of the things that we do mention to them is what their buying costs will be. So in Spain, you can pay quite a high rate of tax. It's called ITP, or transmission tax. In the Javea area, in the Valencia community, that's 10%. It is less in some other areas of Spain. Then you should really allow, if you're buying in this area, probably 12 to 13% of the sales price as your buying costs.
Quite a lot.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
If you have a mortgage, allow 14 to 15%. Okay, so that's worth considering when you are choosing an area. Okay. So once the sales price and the sales terms and conditions has been agreed, the process of buying in Spain is quite different to that as it would be in the UK and other Northern European countries, because you are going to be asked to pay a reservation deposit. So that
what is that?
Okay, the reservation deposit is can be anything from 3,000, maybe 10,000.
That's just to hold the property, is it?
Yes.
While the process is going through.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's basically held by the estate agent.
Right.
Okay. Which is why it's very important to go to a fully licensed established estate agent.
Especially if they've got your money.
Yeah, I would say it's quite a safe process, and in actual fact, it is, in my opinion, a safer process than when you buy in the UK, for example, because once you've agreed your terms and you've paid your reservation deposit, the vendor is obliged to take the property off the market.
Right. Usually
for 2 to 4 weeks, while your lawyer, the buyer's lawyer, is able to do some legal checks.
Right.
Okay. He's going to be checking, or they are going to be checking various things on the property. Okay?
What about if one or the other wants to pull out? What happens then?
Okay, so it's very important that the buyer realises if they put down a reservation deposit and they pull out, they will probably lose the deposit. That's what the reservation, that's the whole point of having the reservation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they could have lost sales if it's off the market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes with regard to the vendor, if the vendor pulls out, it does depend on the terms agreed at the time or with the agency, that the vendor would certainly have to give the deposit back. Usually on a reservation deposit, it's not double.
Right.
But that happens when you get to the next stage. So once the lawyer is happy that the property is fully legal, there's no debts on the property or whatever, other than maybe a mortgage, then there will be a contract called Contrato de Arras, an Arras contract, okay? Sometimes also called compraventa. So what that is a more detailed contract where both sides agree the terms that have been agreed before, and a deposit equal to 10%, which includes the reservation fee already paid. Right. That is held as the Arras deposit. And that is actually held by the vendor in this case. The reason why this is important is because at this stage, should the vendor pull out, he has to pay the deposit back to the buyer, but also the same amount again.
Oh, right.
Yeah?
Crikey.
So you think in the UK, when you sold a house and you've exchanged contracts, obviously that's a serious binding contract.
Yeah.
But there's no deposit
That's
usually at the early stages. So you really, once you get to the ARA stage, the 10% is paid to the vendor. Usually it's a very, very safe process, and that you're not going to get gazumped and you're not going to get gazundered.
Yeah, because gazumping, something that does happen. I'm not quite sure if it happens still now, but at one period it was happening all the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've never known it. In 15 years, I've never known it to happen here.
No.
Okay, so because the vendor would have to pay back double. If you took a higher offer, he'd have to pay 10%.
So it would cost them anyway. So
yeah. So then you go through, maybe some more checks are done, more paperwork is done, and then you go through to completion, okay? In that time, if the buyer is going to get a mortgage, obviously the mortgage process is continuing, okay, which we'll explain on another video. And other things are happening, so the vendor might have to move his furniture out. So that's one thing, a little bit different here too in the UK. Sometimes properties here are sold completely with no furniture. Sometimes all the furniture can be left.
And a car.
And a car.
Yeah, we bought a house and had a car with it.
Yeah, I've just sold one with a car.
It was an old car, but it was a car.
Yeah. But this is all agreed at the reservation stage, okay? But the vendor is obliged to, so the normal lead time, I should explain, is usually 2 to 3 months from reservation to completion. Again, it's negotiable depending on the buyer's position and the vendor's position. Yeah. But then once you come to completion, you have a couple of options. You are able, if you don't need to come to Spain to complete the purchase, or if you're a vendor, if you're not going to come to Spain to complete the sale, you can give your lawyer power of attorney, which means then that your lawyer will go to the notary and sign for you. More often than not, both parties like to come. Yeah. So completion is very different here than it is in the UK. I speak about the UK because obviously I'm British, but I think it's the same in other Northern European countries.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
So you go to notary. Okay. Now the notar is an official, a government-appointed official that oversees the whole process. Yeah. So he will literally check everything in details of all the money laundering aspects, where the funds come from, where the funds going to, all the legal paperwork, make sure that it has all the documents that it needs, he makes sure that the contract is 100%. Yeah. When that's all done, both parties sign, and you're sitting at the table. Usually the agent is with you as well, which is quite nice, and you one hands over the check, the other hands over the keys. Very nice. A nice feeling. A nice feeling. Yes. Something that people dream about for a long time. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's an amazing thing whether you're going to move to Spain or whether you're just going to buy a holiday home here. Yeah. But even so, most agents, certainly Alta Villas, it doesn't end there because, people when they buy a property, they don't know, well, how do I get my pool done? How do I get my garden done? Yeah. So all those things as well. There's lots of questions still, isn't there, to answer? Yeah. 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 And if you get third-party answers, sometimes they're the wrong ones. You need to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. Yeah. Exactly. Which is why we're here today, to talk to you, because you know all about these things. I've learnt the hard way over. Well, 15 years is a long time selling property in one area. Yeah. So you obviously know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I hope so. So is that the end of the first process of purchasing the property? I think so. Okay, so we're finished off there, and this is, as I said, this is part 1 of 2, and we're going to be talking to Julie about selling your property. You've only just bought it and now you're going to sell it. Exactly. Oh my goodness. But I thank Julie for this, and we'll see her next time, and we'll talk about selling your property. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Gary.
Okay, ciao.
Bye. Bye. Bye.